There comes a moment in every man's life when he realizes something painful. Nobody is coming to save him. Not his friends, not society, not even his father. Because the truth is brutal. Your father did not prepare you for the real world. Not because he didn't love you, but because he was fighting his own battles, drowning in his own fears, carrying wounds he never showed you. So you grew up blind to the game. Nobody told you that the world respects force, not softness, discipline, not dreams, power, not innocence. Nobody warned you that kindness without strength turns you into prey. That people remember what you give them but forget you the moment they're done using you. That life is not fair, balanced, or moral. It is strategic. This video is not about healing. It is about transforming. In the next 40 minutes, you will learn the rules men whisper behind closed doors, the rules that separate the predators from the pacified, the respected from the ignored, the men who rise from the men who kneel. Every man is trained from childhood to be useful, help others, be reliable, be the good son. And without realizing it, you grow into a man who carries everyone's weight except his own. But here is the truth your father never told you. The moment you become essential to others, you stop being important to yourself. People don't admire the man who solves every problem. They expect him to. They use him, drain him, and when he finally collapses, they step over his body and ask the next man for help. This is the tragedy of the dependable man. He becomes a silent servant disguised as a friend, a partner, a son, a brother, and the world never apologizes for it. Because usefulness is not respect. Usefulness is utility, and utility is replaced the moment someone cheaper, faster, or more convenient appears. You were not raised to be powerful. You were raised to be available. You learned to answer every call, fix every mistake, calm every storm, show up for every crisis. You believed that being there for everyone would eventually earn you loyalty, gratitude, influence. But power doesn't come from serving everyone. Power comes from being the man who is not easily accessed. Look around your life. Notice how the people you chase never chase you. Notice how the ones you prioritize give you their leftovers. Notice how those you rescue never return the favor. Why? Because you trained them to believe your time is cheap. Humans don't respect abundance. They respect scarcity. And you made yourself endlessly available. Every time you rushed to help someone, you taught them, "You don't need to give me anything. I'll still show up." Every time you said, "Don't worry about it," you taught them, "My effort has no price." Every time you forgave disrespect, you taught them, "My boundaries are soft." And when you try to assert yourself, they look confused because you're breaking a system you created. Understand this deeply. People treat you the way you have trained them to treat you. If you have become the man everyone uses, you have also become the man no one truly considers. Look at the most respected men in society. They are not the ones who are always available. They are the ones who are selectively available, and only to those who have earned it. Power is not in being needed. Power is in being rare. When your presence is scarce, your value rises. When your availability is limited, your respect increases. When your boundaries are firm, your influence grows. But you cannot make this shift by speaking. Words mean nothing to people who have already defined you. You must transform through behavior. Here's how you begin. 1. Stop solving problems you didn't create. If someone makes a mistake, let them fix it. Responsibility teaches growth and protects your energy. 2. Start saying no without explanation. A weak man apologizes for protecting his time. A strong man knows his time doesn't need justification. 3. Become unpredictable in your availability. When people know you'll always pick up, they stop valuing the call. When they don't know when you'll respond, they adjust their tone. 4. Show up for yourself first. Most men burn out because they carry everyone else's fire while their own flame flickers. 5. Reward reciprocity, not dependency. If someone only appears when they need something, you're not in a relationship. You're in a transaction. The moment you stop being endlessly useful, something interesting happens. People who only valued your service disappear, but the ones who value you remain. This is the purification every man needs. And yes, it will feel uncomfortable, because you have spent years being the dependable one, the helper, the fixer, the man who puts others first. But that version of you was designed for survival, not dominance. The world respects a man who is stable, but fears a man who is selective. Your goal is not to be needed by everyone. Your goal is to be respected by the right ones and untouchable to the wrong ones. When you stop being constantly available, you do not lose people. You lose parasites. What remains is your core and your power, and that is where the real transformation begins. Most men are controlled not by force but by their own emotions. They explode when challenged, panic under pressure, break when abandoned, chase when rejected, and collapse the moment someone withdraws affection. This is why so many men lose in life. They are not defeated by others. They are defeated by their inability to remain cold. The world is not kind to emotional men. Emotional men negotiate badly. Emotional men choose comfort over discipline. Emotional men stay in weak relationships because they fear loneliness. Emotional men hold back their potential because someone might not approve. Emotional men get manipulated because their feelings are easy to trigger. Emotional men become predictable, and predictable men become puppets. Power belongs to the man who can remain calm while everyone else is bleeding from the inside. Coldness is not cruelty. Coldness is clarity. It is the ability to see things as they are, not as you wish them to be. It is the discipline to make decisions based on strategy, not sympathy. It is the strength to stay steady when someone is trying to provoke you, guilt-trip you, or emotionally corner you. A cold man does not react. He evaluates. He watches the situation, studies the intentions, and chooses the action that benefits him long-term. He does not lash out. He does not beg. He does not explain himself. He does not let someone else pull him into emotional chaos. His detachment is his shield, and his silence is his sword. Every man must understand this. There are moments in life when kindness is a trap, when forgiveness is surrender, when empathy is used as leverage against you. People will exploit the softness you show them. They will weaponize your loyalty. They will use your fear of hurting others to push you into choices that destroy you. This is why necessary cruelty exists. Necessary cruelty is the ability to prioritize your well-being, your goals, and your future, even when it disappoints, shocks, or angers others. It is not the desire to hurt people. It is the refusal to let people hurt you. Sometimes you must walk away without explaining. Sometimes you must end things without comforting the other person. Sometimes you must say no without softening your tone. Sometimes you must choose yourself so completely that people call you heartless. But a man without boundaries will always be betrayed. A man without self-respect will always be mistreated. A man who avoids conflict becomes a playground for those who enjoy creating it. Cold hands remind you that you are not here to be agreeable. You are here to advance. You are here to build a life that protects you, strengthens you. Emotional men sacrifice their vision for temporary approval. Cold men sacrifice approval for long-term power. When you stop operating from emotion, a new version of you emerges. You stop overreacting. You stop chasing. You stop arguing. You stop justifying. You stop expecting fairness from unfair people. You stop giving energy to people who drain you. You stop apologizing for protecting your peace. Your decisions become sharper. Your presence becomes heavier. Your time becomes more valuable. Your relationships become clearer. People stop playing with you because they can no longer read you or manipulate you. Your silence makes them nervous. Your indifference makes them careful. Your calmness makes them question themselves. This is what the world respects. Not a man who is nice, but a man who is not easily moved. Not a man who reacts, but a man who calculates. Not a man who tries to please, but a man who cannot be controlled. People may not always like you, but they will think twice before crossing you. They may gossip, but they will obey your boundaries. They may misunderstand you, but they will never underestimate you. And while emotional men burn out, you remain unshaken, unbothered, and unbreakable. Power requires cold hands, not frozen by fear, but steady with discipline. The man who can remain calm under pressure becomes the man who dictates the terms, and in a world that rewards dominance, not sensitivity, it is the cold-handed man who walks forward while everyone else trembles. A man's greatest weakness is the belief that he needs permission to live the life he wants. He waits for validation from friends, from family, from society, from a partner, from strangers on the internet. He wants applause before he begins, encouragement before he commits, and reassurance before he takes a single step. This is why most men never rise. They are addicted to approval. They move only when someone else nods. They shrink whenever someone disapproves. Their entire existence is shaped by the opinions of people who don't even respect themselves. Approval is a cage disguised as comfort. Every man who ever built something powerful, dangerous, or meaningful did it without asking for anyone's blessing, because approval makes you weak. It forces you to compromise your truth just to be accepted. It turns your ambitions into a poll where everyone else gets to vote. And the moment your self-worth depends on what others think, you become their servant. You dress for them. You speak for them. You dream for them. You fail for them. And worst of all, you forget who you were supposed to become. A powerful man does not seek permission. He creates a life that reflects his vision, not the world's expectations. But this requires something most men never develop: the ability to be disliked, the willingness to disappoint others, the courage to walk alone. Approval-dependent men fear isolation more than mediocrity. They fear judgment more than regret. They would rather fit in than rise. They sacrifice their potential to avoid upsetting anyone. And then they look back years later, realizing they wasted their life because they wanted to be understood. Freedom is not given to you. Freedom is taken the moment you stop caring about the opinions of people who do not live your life or carry your consequences. This is why true independence begins internally. When you stop looking outward for guidance and start looking inward for direction, a man controlled by public perception can never control his own destiny. He will always be at the mercy of whoever frowns at him. The world is full of men who could have achieved greatness but chose comfort instead, because comfort was applauded and risk was criticized. Life becomes infinitely sharper when you no longer need applause. Suddenly, your decisions become strategic instead of emotional. You stop explaining your choices. You stop seeking sympathy. You stop trying to make others comfortable with your growth. You prioritize your mission over people's misunderstandings. You focus on your evolution instead of their expectations. And something powerful happens the moment you stop asking for permission. The world stops controlling you. People may talk, but their voices no longer hold weight. They may try to guilt you, but guilt no longer influences your choices. They may withdraw their approval, but you no longer need their validation to breathe. The moment approval loses its value, your life becomes yours again. This is when you truly begin to rise. You build skills for yourself, not for applause. You pursue goals that scare you, not goals that impress others. You make decisions based on long-term gain, not short-term acceptance. You develop the courage to leave situations, relationships, careers, and environments that no longer align with your future. And the fear of being judged dissolves, because judgment only affects the man who still needs approval. Once you stop needing it, the world loses its power over you. You begin to draw a new line in your mind. I do not live for them. I do not ask them. I do not wait for them. I do not explain myself to them. I do not need them. People will call you selfish. That is because your existence is no longer arranged around their comfort. People will call you arrogant. That is because you now choose yourself with conviction. People will call you cold. That is because they can no longer control you. But you must accept this, because the alternative is a lifetime spent shrinking yourself to fit inside other people's expectations. A man who does not need approval becomes uncontrollable, unpredictable, uninfluenced, and therefore free. The day you stop asking for permission is the day you take ownership of your life. And once a man owns his life fully, he becomes unstoppable. A man's value is measured by the price of his access. The cheaper it is to reach you, talk to you, use you, or influence you, the faster people lose respect for you. Most men never understand this. They make themselves available to everyone. Every call, every message, every problem, every emotion, every demand, they do it because they think it makes them a good person. In reality, it makes them a doormat with a pulse. When people can approach you anytime, they learn to approach you without caution. When they can interrupt you whenever they want, they learn to believe their time is more important than yours. When they know you'll always pick up, they stop valuing the call. And when they know you'll always be there, they quietly train themselves to stop appreciating your presence. A man who is constantly accessible cannot be respected. Accessibility kills mystery. It kills authority. It kills presence. The men who are respected in this world are not the ones who are always around. They are the ones who appear on their own terms. The king who sits behind closed doors has a higher status than the servant who is always within reach. Every human relationship operates on one simple law. People value what they cannot easily obtain. This applies to love, friendship, leadership, business, and even family dynamics. When you allow people unlimited access to your time, energy, and attention, you are teaching them that you are not a priority, but a convenience. You become the emotional landfill where people dump their problems because they know you'll sit there and listen. You become the spare wheel that only matters when something else fails. But the biggest mistake men make is giving emotional access for free, letting people vent to you, letting them drain you, letting them use you as their therapist, their distraction, their comfort zone. Emotional access is the most expensive currency a man has. Yet most men give it away like cheap candy. Every time you open yourself to someone who hasn't earned your trust, you are giving them the ability to influence you. And influence is power. Once someone can influence your mood, your mind, your decisions, or your energy, they own a part of you. You must reclaim that ownership, not by building walls of anger or hostility, but by becoming selective, ruthlessly selective. Not everyone deserves your presence. Not everyone deserves your time. Not everyone deserves your thoughts, your plans, your attention, or your emotional world. You must become the kind of man whose presence feels rare, whose silence feels meaningful, whose energy feels expensive. This shift changes everything. When people realize they no longer have unlimited access to you, their behavior changes. They speak to you more carefully. They approach you with more intention. They stop taking you for granted. Some people will disappear entirely, and that is a blessing. Anyone who leaves because they can't freely drain you was never there for you. They were there for the access. But here is the dark truth. Restricting access will make people uncomfortable. They will accuse you of changing. They will say you're distant, cold, or selfish. That is because they were benefiting from the old version of you. The version who overextended himself. Growth exposes the parasites. They're not upset because you changed. They're upset because their free access is gone. You are not responsible for managing other people's reactions to your boundaries. You are responsible for protecting your time, your energy, your peace, and your focus. These things build your future. These things shape your life. These things determine your strength. Every minute spent on non-essential people is a minute stolen from the man you are becoming. When you stop being freely available, you force others to step up or step out. You stop being treated like an option. You stop being taken for granted. People begin to respect your time because you respect it. People begin to value your presence because it is no longer cheap. People begin to adjust to you instead of you adjusting to everyone else. Never let anyone access you for free. Make your time cost something. effort, respect, loyalty, consistency, or discipline. Make your presence meaningful through scarcity. Make your silence heavy. Make your energy expensive, because when access to you becomes a privilege, you become a man nobody wants to lose. Silence is one of the most powerful weapons a man can possess, yet almost no one teaches you how to use it. You were raised to believe that communication solves everything. That if you explain yourself clearly, people will understand you. That if you speak honestly, people will respect you. But in the real world, the opposite is true. The more you talk, the more people measure you. The more you explain, the more people doubt you. And the more you express, the more they use your words to control you. A man who talks too much exposes his weakness. He reveals his fears, his insecurities, his intentions, his emotional triggers. He becomes predictable, and nothing is easier to manipulate than a predictable man. People study your reactions, memorize your patterns, and then weaponize them against you. This is why the loudest man in the room is never the one with power. True authority belongs to the one who can sit in absolute silence and remain unmoved. When you reduce your words, something interesting happens. The world becomes uneasy around you. People can't figure you out. They start guessing. They start overthinking. They start reshaping their behavior in your presence. Your silence becomes their pressure. Your calm becomes their doubt. And in their confusion, they begin treating you with more caution, more respect, and sometimes even fear. Most men talk because they cannot control their emotions. They talk to release tension, to fill empty space, to prove themselves, to be understood, to be liked. But every unnecessary word drains your power. Every emotional outburst lowers your status. Every explanation makes you look like you need someone's approval. Nothing crushes masculine presence faster than verbal insecurity. A strong man doesn't speak to sue himself. He speaks to direct reality. His words are measured, intentional, and rare, because he understands that scarcity creates value. A single sentence from a disciplined man can silence a room. People lean in when he speaks, not because he is loud, but because they know he doesn't waste breath on anything irrelevant. There is also a profound danger in announcing your plans. This is how men sabotage their own futures. The moment you speak of an ambition, you awaken the envy, fear, and resistance of others. Some will discourage you. Some will mock you. Some will pretend to support you while secretly hoping you fail. Men with fragile discipline reveal their dreams too early. Men with true power move quietly and let their results do the announcing. Every move becomes stronger when it is unseen. Every achievement becomes greater when it arrives without warning. Silence protects your direction. It shields your ambition. It blinds your enemies and prevents interference. When you stop talking about what you will do and simply do it, you become a man who cannot be calculated, and therefore a man who cannot be controlled. In conflict, the one who speaks less always holds the advantage. The one who reacts emotionally gives the other person control of the frame. Silence forces the other person to reveal themselves. They show their intentions, their frustration, their weakness. They spill everything while you remain still, focused, unreadable. And the unreadable man is always the most dangerous. Silence is not passive. Silence is pressure. Silence is a test. It forces truth to rise. It forces fake confidence to collapse. It forces manipulators to expose their motives. It forces emotional people to break their own composure. A man who can remain silent in chaos controls the entire environment. A man who can pause before speaking sees clearly. A man who can observe without reacting gains every advantage. But silence must be paired with presence. Without presence, silence is invisibility. With presence, silence is dominance. Presence is created through posture, calmness, eye contact, steady breathing, and emotional self-control. When you combine presence with disciplined silence, you become a force others cannot understand, predict, or manipulate. You intimidate without aggression. You influence without forcing. You command without effort. This is the truth your father never taught you. Powerful men are not loud. Powerful men are not easily read. Powerful men do not chase validation through words. Powerful men let silence do the heavy lifting. Master silence, and the world will instinctively lean in to hear your next word. Every man talks about wanting strength, but very few are willing to walk the path that creates it. Strength is not built in comfort, applause, or companionship. Strength is born in solitude. When you are forced to face yourself without distraction, without validation, without anyone holding your hand, most men never become powerful because they never learn how to stand alone. They fear silence. They fear stillness. They fear their own mind. A dependent man will always be controlled. He needs people to keep him entertained, to keep him confident, to keep him motivated. His stability relies on others, not on himself. The moment someone pulls away, he collapses. The moment someone disapproves, he hesitates. The moment someone rejects him, he questions his worth. A man like this cannot rise. He is built on borrowed strength. To stand alone means you become the foundation instead of leaning on one. You stop waiting for help. You stop relying on encouragement. You stop seeking emotional support for every difficulty. You build your own internal infrastructure. Confidence that comes from evidence, not compliments. Discipline that grows from repetition, not motivation. Clarity that comes from observation, not advice. This isolation is not loneliness. Loneliness is when you feel empty without people. Solitude is when you feel powerful without them. Solitude sharpens a man. It forces him to confront the truth of his weaknesses. It forces him to build his own identity instead of absorbing one from others. It forces him to become self-responsible, self-governing, self-directed. No man becomes dangerous without first learning to thrive in his own company. Most men don't understand how much of their identity is borrowed. They think their interests, values, beliefs, dreams, and behaviors are their own, but they are shaped by their environment. Their friend group dictates how they act. Their family dictates how they think. Their partner dictates how they feel. Even society tells them what to want. A man who never steps away from external influence cannot know himself, and a man who does not know himself cannot master himself. Standing alone gives you the ability to see without noise. It gives you the clarity to identify who genuinely adds value to your life and who only takes. When you are not afraid to lose people, you begin to attract the right ones. When you no longer depend on people to feel whole, your relationships stop being chains and start being choices. Your independence changes the power dynamic. You no longer cling, beg, chase, or compromise your standards out of fear. You must become the man who can walk away from anyone and anything. The man who chooses connection, not out of need, but out of alignment. The man who doesn't crumble when someone leaves. The man who isn't emotionally blackmailed by guilt, abandonment, threats, or manipulation. When you can stand alone, no one can use your fear of losing them against you. This is what makes men dangerous. They do not negotiate from weakness. They do not attach their identity to relationships. They do not rely on external validation. They are whole on their own. A man like this is unpredictable, and unpredictable men hold all the leverage. But understand this, standing alone is not a phase. It is a standard. It is a lifelong discipline. It means being able to build your goals alone, train alone, grind alone, plan alone, sit through nights of doubt alone, and rise again without someone cheering. It requires emotional maturity. It requires mental resilience. It requires the willingness to endure quiet seasons where nothing is happening and no one understands your path. This independence creates a calm that other people feel immediately. It creates distance without hostility, respect without speaking, presence without effort. When you walk into a room grounded in yourself, without the invisible need for approval or companionship, you change the atmosphere. People sense it. They admire it, some fear it, but no one ignores it. A man who can stand alone cannot be broken, because everything that can be used against him loses its power. Rejection cannot break him. Silence cannot intimidate him. Loneliness cannot weaken him. He becomes self-sustaining, self-solid, self-defined. And once a man reaches this point, he becomes someone the world must adapt to, never the other way around. There comes a moment in a man's life when evolution is no longer optional. You reach a point where the old version of you, the soft, distracted, approval-seeking version, cannot carry you any further. You begin to feel it, a quiet pressure in your chest, a sense that you are meant for more than the routine you have settled into, a hunger that refuses to die. Most men ignore that feeling. They drown it under comfort, entertainment, excuses, and fear. They spend their lives avoiding the voice inside that demands transformation. But not you, not anymore. Reinvention begins when you stop negotiating with your own weakness. When you stop protecting the habits that keep you small. When you stop living like you have infinite time. A man's life changes the moment he decides to become unrecognizable to the man he used to be, and this is the decision most men never make. They cling to familiar patterns. They defend the identity that has failed them. They protect their limitations because they're afraid of the responsibility that comes with true power. Reinvention requires destruction. You must destroy the version of you that settles for less. Destroy the excuses you've repeated for years. Destroy the illusion that you need to wait for the right moment. Destroy the habit of choosing comfort over growth. Reinvention is not gentle. It does not happen through wishes, dreams, or soft motivation. It happens when you confront yourself brutally. When you admit the truth without filters, without denial, without emotional shielding. Ask yourself, what would your life look like if you lived every day as if someone was trying to take everything from you? What would your mind become if you treated discipline like survival? What would your future look like if you committed to evolution with the same energy you once committed to escaping your reality? Most men avoid reinvention because they don't want to lose their current identity. They're afraid of leaving behind the people who enable their weakness, the routines that keep them numb, the environment that requires no courage. But you cannot rise while holding on to the same life that forces you to kneel. Reinvention demands separation. It demands isolation, elevation, and confrontation. It demands that you leave the boy behind so the man can finally breathe. You will lose people. Good, you will outgrow environments necessary. You will shed identities you once clung to required, because the man you are becoming cannot fit inside the life you built while you were asleep. The outdated version of you must die for the newer version to take the throne. This is the cycle of power. Death, then rebirth, collapse, then reconstruction, a weaker self fading, a stronger self emerging. And when that new version emerges, everything changes. Your presence changes, your standards change, your relationships change, your habits change. The world starts reacting to you differently because you carry yourself differently. People feel the shift even if they can't explain it. You no longer walk like a man trying to avoid conflict. You walk like a man prepared for it. You no longer speak like someone begging to be heard. You speak like someone who allows others to listen. You no longer think like a man hoping things improve. You think like a man who improves things himself. This is what reinvention gives you. A spine, a mission, a direction, a presence, a reputation, a power that does not depend on anyone else's approval. The men who rise in this world are not the smartest, the strongest, or the luckiest. They are the ones who decided to become a different creature entirely. Harder, colder, sharper, more focused. A man who commands his destiny rather than begging for one. And now you stand at the threshold of that transformation. Everything you've heard up to this point was not meant to inspire you. It was meant to provoke you, to push you, to corner you into confronting the truth you've avoided. You know what you must do. You know the man you are capable of being. You know the price of staying the same. This is your moment. Step into it. Reinvent yourself into a man the world cannot ignore, even if it tries. If this video lit something inside you, if it woke a part of you that refuses to stay silent anymore, then like the video, subscribe to the channel, and step deeper into this journey, because this is only the beginning.